And it's like
So,
dispelling that whole myth that like people with disability can't be
Mm.
romantic or sexual. Welcome back to Reframed, the podcast about disability in media. It's episode 6 of Reframe now, and I'm very excited to say I've got my 2 amazing co-hosts with me today. I have Robyn Lambert and I have Stephanie Dower. So welcome back. I'm very excited to get stuck into some things with the two of you and analyze disability representation in mainstream media.
yeah, we're back.
Very excited.
Very, very good. What have you guys been up to, Robyn? I feel like you've got some pretty exciting news to
Yeah,
share with
I've been
everyone.
pretty hectic. Not long ago, got back from the Paralympic Games, which was an absolute whirlwind. And just back into training because we've got another big year next year with Commonwealth Games and World Championships. But Paralympics was awesome. It was really great actually to see the coverage around that being so great. This year, very in depth, and I think a lot more balanced conversation, focusing on the sport, not so much people's personal stories of disability. So it was great.
It's always so horrible, like in previous years when that has happened so much. And I feel like, it probably still happened a little bit this year, but not as much. And for other people with disability, I think, like for me, when I watch it, I'm like, why is this relevant? Why do we need to know why and what and how? It's like, just let this person compete and do what they're amazing at.
I think this year we had some more also like um I guess profiles of like bigger personalities.
Mm.
Like you
Mm.
always know some of the Olympians going over, but this year I feel like more people knew some of the Paralympians going over as well, which is great to see like Woolworths showcasing and Big W, I think. Like I think that
I
was
think it
really
really
cool.
helped that a lot of the commentary team as well were like ex-athletes and people with disabilities. So
Yeah, exactly. Like Kurt Fearnley
yeah,
was there the whole
yeah,
time.
it's great.
Great. Yeah.
So good. And do you feel like the community is kind of getting a bit more around it as well in Australia?
Definitely. I think sort of just viewing it as elite sport as well, and like the achievements
Yeah.
as being like elite sporting achievements rather than just like a fun time for people with disabilities to get out there.
Yeah.
Like,
Like, oh,
Yeah, look
I
at
had
them
a
over there.
yeah. So I think that's great. And again, I think it really helped that we had like some really top level athletes commentating and just explaining the whole situation and how it all worked. So I think generally the public's really getting behind it, which is awesome.
Also, some of those sports are, like, so
Yeah.
cutthroat. I'm like, what was I watching? It
Honestly.
was it was like no, it wasn't basketball, it was like rugby or something, or no, goalball, I think it's called, and, like, they're literally, like, on the ground and, like, they're throwing their entire bodies at this ball. I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is insane, but
It's
so
great.
cool." Like, yeah.
Yeah. What about you,
It
Jason? Up
scares
to
me.
anything special?
Yeah, so I have obviously my own company, my I guess marketing and media company, which has kind of tripled in size, I think, since the start of Reframed, which is amazing. And I'm really, really happy about that, but just maybe needing a little bit more sleep. And other than that, I've been working as well a little bit behind the camera. So a while ago, I did a shoot for Jam the Label, which was really awesome. And then more recently, I was involved in a video for Melbourne Fashion Week that was more in front of the camera, but it was around disability inclusion in fashion. And if you haven't seen that already, go onto their Insta and give it a little, and share it because it's actually really, really amazing. And what they did really well is they learnt from their previous years where myself and other models with disability had been there. And they've sort of tried now, instead of just popping us on a couple of runways, to actually be more inclusive throughout the whole event and actually become advocates themselves, I guess, or allies. So yeah, they're using their platform, I guess, to uplift disabled voices in the fashion industry, which is amazing. So anyway, that's me. I need to shut up because I'm talking way too much, but I was just really happy about it. And what about you, Steph?
2021 has been a very crazy but productive year. We finally wrapped up a year-long development program that we've been doing on a feature film called Seeing Scout. I think I might have mentioned that a couple of times in the last season. We're getting some really good buzz around it. We're getting a lot of really great people interested in working on the project, which is a romance drama feature film. and we're looking to go into production next year because we also were granted, at the end of this Attagirl development lab that we did, we were granted the $25,000 production grant. So that was like, oh my God, people are actually like believe in this project enough to, to give us that. And it's, yeah, it was a really great confidence boost and just showed that, yeah, like people beyond myself and my co-writer and director Tanya, championing this project. So that was really exciting. So that was that. And then the other, I guess, big accomplishment I had this year was I produced a short film that premiered at the Brisbane International Film Festival last month. So that was called Sunshine, and that was produced with Taste Creative and Bus Stop Films. So it was a really fun experience working with them. Really great to have that full producer credit, and it was obviously very inclusive set given the work that both of those companies do. So yeah, that was really exciting and very full on for a while, but really got to test out a few of my skills because I was producer, editor, and then at the last minute became first assistant director as well.
Whoa.
Yeah, just a little bit of juggling, but
Wow.
it's fine.
God.
So yeah, that was a fun experience. So yeah, 2021.
Oh my
What's happening?
God. Congratulations. It's
Thank
been
you.
massive, hasn't it?
It has been, yeah. It's nice when when you do things for so long and yeah, you start to feel like things are paying off and people are taking notice, which is great. So yeah, yeah.
Absolutely nailing it. I'm so excited. So excited for all of us. Look at us go.
Nailing it.
Hashtag nailing it.
If we do say so ourselves.
Very humbly, yes.
Love it. Well, it's been lovely to catch up on that. But let's get stuck straight into our piece of media for today, which, for those who haven't already seen on our socials, it is sex education, which is obviously a very cool one to be doing right now. Young and hip, which is exciting. Steph, did you want to just give us a quick overview of sex education for anyone who hasn't seen it?
Absolutely, yeah. Sex Education is a British comedy drama series that is streaming on Netflix, with season 3 having dropped just a couple months ago. The show centers around an eclectic, very eclectic, group of students and teachers at Moordale High School, and they're all very much exploring and experimenting with the many different aspects of sex and how it impacts each of their lives, and talking about, how education plays a role in that and all this kind of stuff. So it's honestly much better sex education than I remember getting in high school. So if you have any questions, I would say go and watch this show. So
Oh my God, I love that description so much. Literally, like the book that the mum writes. I've forgotten her name for some reason, but I'm like, I want that book.
Yeah.
I need to give that book to like everyone I know.
right, yeah. And I love that like the kids are sort of confused or curious and experimenting in their own way, but the adults in the show are as well.
Not
Like
much better.
teachers, and parents, they're not. No, in fact, they're doing things much worse. But yeah, it's I'm really excited to talk about this because I people have been telling me to watch this show for like the last couple of years, and I'm like, yeah, I'll get to it, and then finally this year I only just finished streaming it like a couple weeks ago, and I really enjoyed it. The characters are great. It's really quite well written. So
I was exactly the same. Everyone kept telling me to watch it, and it became one of those things where I was like, I kind of don't want to watch this now because so many people have told me to. And then we picked it for this, and I was like, I've got to watch it. And now I'm obsessed.
So
I'm like,
good.
yeah,
mad that the last recent season came out like 2 months ago, and I have to wait probably like a whole year for or longer for another season.
at least we know season 4 is
Happening.
coming.
Yes.
That's the main thing.
Yes. So we know that we love the show, but how did we feel about the disability representation?
So I guess, do we want to quickly mention
Yeah.
what the disability representation actually is?
Probably a good idea.
So because people might watch season 1 and be like, "What are you talking about? There's not much going on." But in season 2, there is a character introduced called Isaac, and his disability itself is not really, there's no diagnosis or anything, but he uses a wheelchair. So that is, and he lives in the trailer park with one of the lead characters, Maeve, and yeah, tension arises from there.
Yeah, it
Juicy.
does. So,
Yeah.
Robyn, what did you think? I guess positive, negatives, all the
Yeah.
things about the
One of the
representation.
things that I really enjoyed, like I said, this diagnosis is not mentioned, which is I think pretty cool just in its own right. Like that's not the main part of his character or his narrative in the show. But I think it was one of the first times I saw a character in a show that appears to be quadriplegic and is played by an actor with a disability, the same disability, and visually has the body of a quadriplegic or someone with a disability affecting all four limbs. I think often it's quite easy to fit a character in a wheelchair into a show, but it's very often sort of like a paraplegic, and everything else works and looks normal, uh, quote unquote
Yes.
normal. So I
Yeah.
thought that was really awesome. And then again, like we mentioned, just the aspect of romance and navigating relationships and sex as a young person, and then as a young person with a disability, and some of the challenges or the things that might come up because of that. I thought that was handled pretty well as well. So
There's one scene that comes to my mind that is one of the best scenes I've ever seen, particularly talking about like disability and romance and that kind of thing. And it got me going. I was like, this is great. And I'm not gonna do it justice talking about it here. So please go and watch it. I think it's in season 3. Please go and watch it. But it's where Maeve, who is the girl in the show that Isaac is interested in, and Maeve has feelings for him. And there's one moment you can sort of see she's like thinking about something, and Isaac is like, "You want to know what I can and can't feel, right?" And she's like, "Yes." And it's this really simple, intimate moment where he's like, "Put your hand on my chest," and she does, and like she slowly rises her hand up his chest until he's like, "There you are." And it's so simple and so sweet and so intimate, but it's just, I thought it was so well done. I
yeah,
really love that
I
scene.
think that's it. Like when other shows and movies and things have tried to tackle this, it's still been it's appearing very medical. Like when they
Mm.
explore that, and it's like almost just sort of clinical. Where this was like just like a true intimate moment of how if you actually cared and loved about someone, that's how that would go down. Like there's gonna be curiosity, you're gonna have to figure things out together, but it can still be this like really tender moment, which is lovely.
And it's like dispelling that whole myth that like people with disability can't be romantic or sexual because obviously we know that they can, but a lot of non-disabled people probably I just feel too awkward to ask or like just are so unsure. So like I totally agree, Steph. They tackled it in such a simple but like powerful and educational way.
And there's so much power in just seeing it on the
Mm.
screen, because you're right, like so many people that don't have that first experience of disability, they just are either too afraid to ask questions or feel too awkward, and there's so much, so many misassumptions out there that people with disability can't do certain things, and just seeing it on screen hopefully dispels some of those myths, being like, "Oh, it is a
Mm.
possibility. Oh, it can happen. Oh, that's, yeah, right." So I thought that was great.
Yeah, one thing I maybe would comment on that I don't think I loved is, and correct me if you disagree, and also if I'm wrong, but I feel like in season two, like 95% of the time, the only places that we see Isaac are like in his own caravan. And I was like, not sure if they've done an amazing job at like dispelling the whole, I guess, myth around the fact that people with disability can't get out and about and they only stay at home all the time.
Yeah.
That is one thing that is like my biggest bugbear with the portrayal of Isaac is
Mm,
we don't know anything about his life outside of he lives with his brother in a trailer park and he's interested in Maeve.
Mm.
Like that's kind of his whole character.
yeah.
We don't know how old he is because if he is like a he's not.
At high school.
We don't know if he's high school because he doesn't go to
Yeah.
school with the rest of them. He doesn't appear to have a job. He's always at home unless he's out with Maeve. Like we don't. So I would love to see his character be built
Yeah.
out more, beyond just the sexual, relationship
But I
with
guess,
Maeve.
just I totally agree with that, but just on the other hand, like, a lot of the characters that you see in the trailer park, you only see in the trailer park.
Yeah,
So I didn't know
Yeah,
if it was sort of
very
more of, like, a thing on, like, class and, like, where these people might be at in their lives, they're
true.
spending a lot of time
true.
at the park.
I think,
But yeah.
yeah, I agree. Yeah. Well, I guess we have to see where they
Yeah.
take him in season 4, like, because I think season 3, like they tried to make him more of like one of the kids,
Yeah.
like one of the other
Yeah,
kids on the show, and it's like, okay, cool, but if he is one of the kids, let's make him more than
Yeah.
just this one thing.
like why is he not at the
Yeah.
school? Like I
Yeah.
just I there was a moment where I thought they were going to start like integrating him into the school,
Mm.
but
Me
then it
too, actually.
didn't
Yeah.
happen, and I was like, "Ah, okay."
Yeah.
Mm. One moment I really did love that had nothing to do with the sex on the show, it was just real, was Maeve, took Isaac to a party at Otis's house,
Mm.
and to get to Otis's house, it's down these rocky stairs, and how many times do we see in film and TV this person in a wheelchair come to this house that appears to only have stairs, and then magically they're inside?
They just don't show it. They're like,
They never
"Oh, they're
show
on the way to the house, and now they're inside."
exactly, and now they're inside. It's like, okay, how does that work? But on sex education, Isaac is at the top of the stairs, and he looks at me and is like, "How did you think this was gonna work?" And she's like, "I just didn't think." And that was so
Yeah.
real. And then he had to
Uh,
be carried by a group of strongmen, which I often have to be
yeah,
into the house. And I was like, "Oh my god, that's my life right there." It was so cool.
I know. It was like a very real moment, but it was also I was like as soon as he was like inviting himself to the party, I was
Yeah,
like, "You
that
have no idea. You're not going to be able to get inside." Like
where
I
do
was
you think
already
oh,
thinking about
Already
it.
stressed.
yeah,
Yeah, because
yeah.
we always have to think
Yeah.
about it. Yeah.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I love that he wasn't. He had the confidence to invite himself. He wasn't afraid of like, what if I rock up somewhere and there's going to be stairs? Which I always, I think we all do that. We're like, can we actually get in there? But he was just like, no, I'm going,
We'll
and
figure it out.
whatever happens,
Yeah.
happens. Yeah, yeah,
And I really love that they didn't like fall into those like classic stereotypes of like, oh, victim.
Mm.
Oh, let's
mm,
overly medicalize everything to do with this person. Or like, oh, he's a saint. Because
Yeah.
like clearly he's
yes,
not.
Nope.
Like he's done some pretty
uh,
bad shit
Mm.
throughout the series already. And like he's so sarcastic and very assertive with certain people. And I love when people I love when people ask, like, what happened? Why are you in a wheelchair? And he just has the most ridiculous stories. Like,
yeah.
the most.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah, if we can build it out a little bit more to give him more of a life, like I think his personality is like great, and the sexual relationship with Maeve, that's also great. But yeah, give him a bit more of a life outside of that, and I think we'll have some like A plus
I think
representation
in the
there.
previous episodes we talked a lot about depth and in characters and it not just being the disability or this one thing, and I think he's halfway there. So yeah, it'll be really exciting to see how they can flesh him out a little bit more.
Yeah, he's like, he's got the depth in personality and like character, but it's like when they just need to develop like
Narrative.
almost like the character on paper
Yeah.
stuff. Like, does he go to school? Who is
Exactly.
he?
Yeah.
Like, where's he come from? All that kind of stuff.
I will also play devil's advocate here. In again, we have a young man with physical disability on the screen with an able-bodied woman. When when are we gonna get a female or non-binary person with disability with an able-bodied partner? I think that is, I'm like, we're right there, but we just haven't crossed that line
It's
just
like
yet.
it's like people have an easier time understanding women like caring for a man and like taking that role, but not so much the other way around. So
And this will be the other thing longer term as well, as if Isaac's like the disabled character and if it stays quite tokenistic. Like, I'd really like to see in season 4 that they're introducing other people's experiences of disability, even if it's existing characters, but then they just, have some level of diagnosis of something, or something might happen throughout their life, whatever it is, but just other experiences of disability I think would be really important. And then sort of ensuring that there's a level of intersectionality in there with that, because like you've said, Steph, it's like we've got one character right now. It's a pretty good character. There's a bit to go, like bit to build up around him, but pretty great character. I'm pretty impressed with it. But he is like white, seemingly heterosexual man. So there's still a long way to go.
It's like we're willing to go this far, but we're not willing to go beyond that.
Yeah.
As of we need to take the next step, guys.
And like can sort of understand that, like dipping the toe, because there's not a lot to benchmark off, which is like one of the hardest parts. And I think why this kind of movement in terms of inclusion and representation in media can often happen so slowly is that people kind of, I guess creatives start like dipping their toe into like, oh, we'll have this narrative, or we'll have this character, and then they start to like gauge the response.
Exactly.
And generally, I think at the moment, like response towards Isaac's character has been like really good. So hopefully they just keep building on it.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. If we can introduce or start, you don't want to go straight to the end kind of thing. You want to work your way up to it. And if we can introduce or, broaden the audience's minds up to new characters and new types of archetypes, I think that's what we're trying to do. But I think audiences are showing that they are responding well to these characters that we have been exposed to. I think now it's time to push it to the next step. Audiences are ready.
Yeah. And on that, I think it's time to give our scores on the inclusive disability representation scale. Robyn, what did you give Sex Education out of 5 for their portrayal of disability?
Yeah, I gave it a 4 because I thought, like I said, personality-wise, it was probably one of the more accurate representations. And again, they've given that role to a person with a disability, and so because of that, seemed very authentic. But like you guys said, he just needs a little bit more fleshing out. We need to know a little bit more about him, and to see where that romance goes and things like that would be really awesome.
Steph?
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. 4 out of 5. Like, seeing Isaac in that romantic relationship with Maeve, and his personality, like the wit that he has, and the talents that he does have, is great. But yeah, I just want to see him be a bit more of a, find out how he spends all of his time, not just when he's with Maeve or painting or whatever he does.
Yeah,
So
like let's build his character a bit more outside of Maeve.
let's make him three-dimensional. Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. How does he exist outside of Maeve?
And the trailer park.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was a little bit harsher. I was a 3.5 because I like all of that, definitely. And I'm just kind of at a point now where I'm like, I think we can just start introducing more than one disabled character at a time. Like we just, and it took them till, season 3 to really represent Isaac in a way that I was properly impressed with. So there's a bit to go, and I feel like it might be nice to maybe revisit Sex Education in, a couple seasons time or something, and do something similar like this and analyze it again and see, and maybe even like analyze what they've done better or different or worse even since season 3, because I can't see this show, being canned anytime soon. It's becoming quite a cult following.
It'll be one of those things where the actors are like 30 playing like students.
Literally. And it's just that like classic UK humor that just hits different.
Slaps.
It's great. I love it so much. I love it. So yes, well, that's it, everyone. Thank you so much for following along, and obviously thank you, Robyn and Steph, for joining me again on episode 6 of Reframed. For everyone at home, our little schedule of episodes has changed a little bit. We're going to start releasing episodes each week with a different special guest, and either Steph or Robyn will join me on alternating weeks, which will be fantastic. So definitely stay attuned to our social media pages, because that's where we will be announcing what we're going to be analysing and who will be joining us as our special guest. Already got some very, very exciting guests lined up, and I have a lot more to go and tap on the shoulder. And I know that we're just going to continue having these fantastic conversations. And that's the whole point, is to continue this discussion of representation of people with disability in media, why it's so important, and how we can change the perceptions towards disability through media. So if you don't know how to find us on social media already, literally just search Reframed Podcast. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So whatever works best for you there. Otherwise, you can just send us an email to hello@reframedpodcast.com and we'll get your comments and thoughts or inquiries there. We want to know what you think about this podcast, but we want to know what you think about the media that we are analysing. And we also want to know if you have any suggestions of what we should be analysing in future episodes, or special guests that we should be inviting on, because there are so many amazing disabled people out there that are doing some incredible things. And we want to uplift those voices, highlight what they're doing, and continue creating change and building some more influence out there for people with disability in the media space. So that is enough, I think, from me, and we will see you again next week. Bye.